How's it going, everybody? This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. So, if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know the politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this show is here for you to answer all of your questions about politics, and there's no judgments, there's no roasting, there's no debating. This is not one of those shows where I call people up just to yell at them and tell them that they're stupid for having different political opinions than me. I'm not here to own anybody or roast anybody. I am just here to engage in good faith with all good faith people who want to know more about politics, because things are really complicated and weird right now. We are living in unprecedented times, and it can be, what's up, Triska, good to see you again. It can be really difficult to figure out what's going on. It can be really difficult to figure out what are accurate resources. Why are people doing the things that they are doing? Can we trust the federal government? With all the stuff that they are saying and doing and whatnot. And so yeah, it is important to be able to educate yourself about this stuff and learn about what the government is doing and figure out how to parse relevant information, and so that's what we're doing here. And I don't care if you are a Republican or a Democrat, if you're further to the left than me, if you're further to the right than me. There's no fighting here. There's no judgments. There's no debating. Maybe you're worried about asking certain people a question because you don't want to seem more right leaning than you are, or more left leaning than you are. Like maybe you live in a place where if you ask a certain question, everybody would call you a beta cuck femboy. Or maybe you live in a place where if you ask a certain question, people would think that you're a MAGA person. RPAG says, what are your opinions on APAC and our government? APAC is an extremely right-wing organization. They are advocating for the government of Israel, but they are using the loophole to not register as foreign agents. They are very powerful. They're very well funded, and so they can get you unelected if you don't toe the party line. But I think that we should be standing up to groups like APAC who are exercising, you know, uh, power over our elected representatives for fear of getting them unelected and stuff. In addition to the fact that Israel is currently guilty of doing war crimes, and a bunch of independent agencies have said that they are doing a genocide. Storm is coming says, "Why are red southern states high welfare, poor education? Why? Because part of the doctrine of the conservative ideology is to defund things that the government pays for, like public education, for example. And so, for a long time, the Republican Party has been at war with education to try to make sure that they are dealing with an uneducated working class, so that they can feed them whatever lies they want. And so, first it's a class size of 20, then it's a class size of 30, then it's a class size of 50, and there's no money for chalk or textbooks or whatever. It is and because of that lack of education, there's no mobility then. So those people can't go out and get better paying jobs than their parents had, and they just sort of like live in this cycle of poverty and not getting an education. Tyler says, reform the UK. I don't know too much about the UK, but sure. Lick Itty Double O says that Orange Fruit Loop is doing bad things. I mean, yes, Trump is doing bad things. Excellent questions, guys. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. My name is Jared. I'm here to answer all your questions about politics. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to get into debates. I think debates are stupid. I am just here to engage in good faith with people who want to know more about politics or want things cleared up about politics. It can be as complicated or as simple as you like. I am just here to answer all good faith questions. Storm is coming says, how bad has Donald Trump destroyed the American Constitution? I think there's a difference between destroyed and damaged, or destroyed and ignored. I do not believe that the Constitution has been destroyed. I think that the Trump administration and Republicans have done a lot of damage to America and to our institutions, but everything is salvageable at this point still. But he is ignoring it. He is ignoring the rules that he is supposed to be abiding by to protect all of the citizens that he is supposedly, governing for. All right, Barney the Big Red Dog says, "Can you explain the no tax on overtime?" Absolutely. So, the No tax on overtime is a policy platform that Donald Trump adopted to try to attract, working class voters. It was, relatively successful. There is still this idea out there that there is no tax on tips in the big beautiful bill. What's important though is that there's all these stipulations and limits on what counts as, what do you call it, overtime pay or no tax on tips pay, and so basically the end result is that we are all, even people that, that could be benefiting from no tax on tips or no tax on overtime, the potential financial benefit of that is outweighed by the catastrophic, cuts to things like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security that are also in the big beautiful bill. So we are losing more money, even if that is, something that affects you, your what do you call it, your working situation. Louise says thoughts on a land value tax and Georgism in general. I don't know too much about that, Louise. I apologize. Sports edits. I see you requesting to be let on, but I do not typically have people on. But if you stick around, ask a question, prove to me that you're here in good faith, then maybe I will change my mind. Gargolotin. I see what you're doing. Please don't spam the comments. Ask a question if you like. I agree that what Israel is doing to the people of Palestine is egregious and war crimes, and many independent agencies have called it a genocide. So we're on the same team, my guy. So you don't need to be spamming the comments with that. Storm is coming says, will Donald Trump hurt Social Security? He already has. They have fired a bunch of people at the Social Security Administration. So people, they don't have anybody to call when they miss their payments. I believe that defunding Social Security was in the big beautiful bill. I could be wrong about that. You want to double check that? Give it a Google. Foghorn Productions, great to see you again. In your own personal opinion, which country is America's most important ally? I mean, probably Mexico and Canada, because they're so close to us and such intimate trading partners with us. Random JA says, you ignored my question, but why hasn't anything been done in Flint? I believe that the water pipes in Flint have literally just been finished being fixed. Random JA. So, give that a Google, double check that. But I'm pretty sure that project has been complete, and that the water is now safe there. But again, give that a Google. Jungo says, do you agree that it is a genocide? It doesn't matter what I think. I am not an expert in genocide. I have not crunched the numbers, but enough independent agencies have decided that it's a genocide, including those within Israel, for I think all of us to be able to accept that it is a genocide. Green says, even I, a Mizrahi Israeli whose entire family is from Haifa, can tell you it's genocide. All right, we're in agreement then, Greens. Dervision R says, hi, Iam from Germany. Why the Americans voting for a people Trump? People got tricked into voting for Trump. Dervision. It was not a smart move. Only 22% of the country voted for Trump. It was mostly people not voting. That is the problem. Random JA says, just looked it up. You're correct. It just happened 21 days ago. Excellent. Yeah, my brain works, everybody. Thor's World says, that's a lie. What's a lie? Dan Blackroyd, excellent to see you again, says he also pulled from Social Security funds, which all presidents do, but Trump has done it a lot. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Let's see here. Mom's Extra says, that is such a lie. Wow. What is such a lie? I don't know what you guys think is the lie. Philip says, the National Guard in D.C. picking up trash is such a waste of money and insulting to the Guard. Yeah, they could have housed every homeless person in D.C. with the amount of money they wasted sending the National Guard in there. Thor's World says he got 60% of the vote. No, that is inaccurate. He got 22% of the vote of the American population, of the voting population. But that does not include, your 60% doesn't include the number of people who did not vote. If you include the entire voting population of America, it's only 22%. But if you're asking about like the popular vote, I believe it wasn't even 60%. I believe it was closer to 55%. But again, I'm not gonna die on that hill. DK says, ask me anything about the host. Do you like him? Nick Nam says they willfully voted for the orange felon. Yeah, but willfully, the word willfully is doing a lot of work there. If people got indoctrinated, lied to, have been lied to for, decades, and is that necessarily their fault that they thought they were voting for one thing and they got something else? Thor's World says he got the majority of the actual votes. Yeah, all right, Thor's World. Ryan says, still better than the other option. That is inaccurate. Stir Vision says, are there really only two parties in America? There are only two viable parties. Barney the Big Red Dog says, what's your take on mass deportation? Good or bad for the economy? Bad for the economy, and also it's morally repugnant. It is unconscionable. It is a violation of human rights, of civil rights. Yeah, there's nothing good about it. It's a fucking nightmare, you know. Alrighty. Rit says that's why your party polls at 19%. All right, Rit. Django says, why do you think so many people don't vote? I think that there has been a concerted effort. So voter participation has been down for a long time, since the 1970s. And while I would love to put all of that into the camp of billionaire propaganda, clearly that started before that. I think that, you know, a lot of it is billionaire propaganda. A lot of it is these narratives that both parties are the same, voting doesn't do anything. If you vote, you're complicit in a corrupt system. You know, all this bullshit to convince people to not be engaged and to convince people that nothing changes, you know, despite the fact that things do change depending on who's in charge. Banda Boss says, I don't feel mass deportation is bad for the economy. Well, it 100% is, Banda Boss. There are farmers right now whose food is dying on the vine because they can't find anybody to pick it. And so that is going to hurt that farmer financially. It is going to increase the cost of produce. It already has started increasing the cost of fruits and vegetables at the grocery store. And it's going to be having fewer fruits and vegetables to sell is a what do you call it? It is a drag on the economy. Access Denied says that's racist. What's racist? Access Denied. Dan Blackbird says, I think we should talk to people who we know who don't vote and ask them why and genuinely listen. I would love that, Dan Blackbird. Let's do it. Avery says, opinion on the Israel-Palestine conflict. So the people that are in charge of Israel, aka the Netanyahu government, and the people that are in charge of Hamas, of Palestine, aka Hamas, those are both bad actors. They are both guilty of war crimes. And so the people who are losing, the people who are innocent in this, are the citizens of both Israel and Palestine. Now, my personal opinion is that because Israel is the more powerful party in this conflict, that it is incumbent upon them to, you know, extend the olive branch and actually try to repair that relationship. But as it turns out, that is the exact opposite of what Israel's been doing for a really long time, with all of their illegal settlements and, you know, fucking, you know, just indiscriminately murdering people that live there. So yeah, America should not be sending any money or weapons to Israel any longer. Benjamin Bott says, Jesus Christ, you're naive. Well, you spelled your wrong. So let's see here. Bandabas says, and that's causing a state and local net loss. There's a strain on public services due to the amount of immigrants. So Bandabas, there is some truth to that, but it's sort of a balance issue where immigrants, because they put more money into the economy than they take out, because they pay more in taxes than they take out in social services, they are actually the ones propping up all of our public services. It is true that an influx of immigrants that happened during the Biden administration put a strain on it, but that's just because there was not enough time given for that to balance out, for the additional funds that they were bringing into the economy to equal additional funding for those government services. But yeah, you know, it is not that immigrants are on the net a drain on social services. It is that they were for a short period of time until social services could catch up. Inappropriate innuendo says, is woke bad? No. Angel Death says, what is the correct political system? Probably like a mixed model like they have in Norway and Sweden and shit. Bandabas says, do you know how much they contribute to the overall GDP in percentage form? No, I do not. Save Ferris says, troops heading to Chicago, so many red cities with much higher crime, abuse of power. That is accurate. Trude Alert says, why do Americans make politics their entire personality? I don't know. Some people do. Some people make smoking their entire personality. Some people make, you know, liking movies their entire personality. You know, it's a, you know, it takes all kinds in this world. Trude Alert says, I already did that one. Thor's World says, we can't copy their systems in Norway and Sweden. I mean, I've heard that argument before, Thor's World, but I don't buy it even a little bit. Like, why? Why? What's the point? You know, why can't we? There's no reason. Like, we're America. There's something wrong with America that we can't have a better political system. Benjamin Bott, thank you. That's very nice. Thor's World says they are one pop dynamic. Okay, but there's nothing about that system that means that we can't do that here as well. DK says we can't. We're too large and too many places are remote. That is completely inaccurate. There's nothing about the size of the country that means that we can't have a mixed system. And in fact, those models work better with larger populations because there's more wiggle room. When you have a population of 330 million, everybody kicking in a little bit of money to take care of everybody else spreads out more evenly than in smaller countries. Let's see here. Banda Boss, DK says resources allocated towards large cities mainly. Healthcare is a prime example. DK says you can't just say I'm wrong, LOL. I mean, I did provide a lot of information also, I didn't just say you're wrong. Fog War Production says the mixed system isn't possible. It's just more logistical work than a smaller country. Isn't impossible. It's just more logistical work than a smaller country. Like Norway. Yeah, it's hard, but we should 100% do it because it's better and cheaper. Barney the Big Red Dog says, as someone who didn't vote, I just didn't educate myself and didn't know who to vote for. Well, I appreciate you being able to admit that, Barney. Do you have plans for voting in the midterm? I would love to hear what they are. Dean Golf says, has Trump benefited during this term? 100%. He's something like $3 billion richer. He's got a fucking crypto coin where people that we're never going to figure out who they are just bribing him with billions of dollars in untraceable funds. It's a fucking con. It is a grift. Everybody should be really fucking pissed off about this. Shreyan says, do you think Trump is the problem or all of his goons in office? They're both a problem, AWO says, I'm voting all Reds. I don't think that's a really good idea, AWO. But if you don't ask a question, I'm going to boot you because I don't care for people just spreading misinformation in my live streams. Dean Golf says, but I think you answered that. Haha. I'm not sure what there is. Vame says, what's your opinion about Hamas? They are a terrorist organization that is guilty of war crimes. So thumbs down there. Fog War Productions. America also has a knack for producing gifted logistical geniuses. We pulled off the Berlin airlift. Yeah, and we put a fucking man on the moon, So, yeah, America can do it. I believe that America's, potential is limitless. I don't know why y'all think that there are things that America can't do because reasons. Thor's World says, should we be mad about Trump's coin or Nancy's stock trading? I think we should be mad about both. And also Ted Cruz's stock trading and Rick Scott's stock trading and Matt Gaetz's stock trading and Marjorie Taylor Greene's stock trading. All the Republicans who do stock trading in addition to Nancy Pelosi. Gage says, is Israel committing a genocide in your opinion? My opinion does not matter. What matters is a bunch of independent agencies, including ones located in Israel, are saying that it was a genocide. All right, Banda Boss, I do see, let's see here, 0.32% is not so much. And if you're looking at GDP, yeah, it helps the economy, but I'm talking per capita. Banda Boss, I don't know what that point proves. The fact of the matter is that immigrants do put more money into the tax system than they take out of it. And ergo, they would, on the net, are not a strain on social services. They are actually helping to assist pay for social services. So I'm not really sure what that percentage proves or disproves in that thing. M. Barrera says, did you see Trump said he freed all the hostages? He says a lot of lies, Barney the Big Red Dog says, I do appreciate people like you who I can use to educate myself. I am currently leaning blue. I love that, Barney the Big Red Dog. Is there anything that is keeping you from being a firm Democratic voter? Like, do you have any misgivings still that are putting you on the fence or anything? Angel Death says, what's your opinion on the flag burning ban? It is blatantly unconstitutional. The Supreme Court already found that burning flags is a freedom of speech, is protected by the First Amendment. It is stupid that Trump did this. He is wasting a lot of time doing stupid culture war shit instead of actually solving any problems. Cost of living is continuing to go up. Prices are going up. Wars are not stopping. They are only escalating. He's fucking, building concentration camps. We can't have anything. We can't have healthcare. We can't have fucking Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. The only thing that we can buy are fucking data centers and concentration camps for immigrants and give all of our money to ICE. It's fucking disgusting. It's so fucking stupid. Froyland says, why are you acting like Biden did anything? He spend more money. That is wildly inaccurate, Froylan, and Biden did a lot of really great things for this country. And if you would like me, Froylan, to tell you what those things are, then I will happily do that. Gook, oh God, I can't believe you just made me say that. Said, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna get rid of you right now. I can tell this is not going anywhere. All right. Let's see here. Name them and how much money he spent. Well, Trump has spent more. He has increased the deficit more than any president in history. Additionally, the Biden administration passed the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, an infrastructure bill, and the Inflation Reduction Act, which was the largest investment in renewable energy in our nation's history. Let's see here. Shreyan says thoughts on Mamdani is perhaps a poor idea to put it out there that he is a democratic socialist or not. I don't think it's hurt him or his chances of getting elected. Seems like it's helping. Seems like he's really popular. I like him. I like Mamdani. Devin says for presidential elections, if the Electoral College decides the president, should safe states vote third party? No, 100% not. The messaging of voting for a third party is detrimental to democracy and the zeitgeist and the cultural zeitgeist. I will happily go into more details on that if you like. Oplavis says, "Are you researched into the Online Safety Act?" I don't know enough about that, Oplavis. I'm so sorry about that. Ruben James says, "Should I vote for the Green Party?" 100% not. Jill Stein is a con artist, and there is a lot of data to suggest that she is an agent of the Russian government. Vandabas says, "State and locally there is a net loss, but what you're referring to is nationally. They are different." Okay, Vandabas, but there is money is fungible. So national funds can be used for that as well. I do not believe that the state and local tax distinction refutes that point. Maybe you disagree with me, and that's totally fine, Vandabas. You seem like you're here in good faith, so I'm not trying to throw any shade. Ruben James says, "Do Democrats do more for the environment?" 100%, absolutely, full stop. Frankie says, "Do you think the U.S. should stop funding Israel?" Not asking about the Palestine relationship. I do think that they should stop funding Israel. We already have a rule on the book called the Leahy Law that says that we are not allowed to assist countries that are guilty of doing war crimes. And they are guilty of doing war crimes. Devin says, "If both parties fund G side, should I still pick either or?" Yeah, because one side is still better on that issue than the other. There's a difference between the Biden administration criticizing the Israeli government and continuing to send them money and weapons versus the Trump administration, which is condoning all the things that Israel is doing, which is causing them to put their fucking foot on the gas. Additionally, the Harris campaign was better on this issue than the Biden campaign. The Biden campaign was better on this issue than the Trump campaign. So the people in Palestine are suffering more because Trump is president than they would have if Kamala Harris was president. They are doing more genocide now that Trump is president than they were during the Biden administration and that they would have during a Harris administration. So 100% you should still be voting for Democrats. Full stop. Ron Rush says, "Who's the ruling party of Palestine?" Technically, it's the Palestinian Authority, but everybody who knows about the issue will tell you that Hamas is the one that is really in charge. All right, Devin, sorry, I did that one. On Antonio says, "Does Israel control America?" No, it has a lot of influence in our politics because we have a lot of money in our political system, for better, for worse, exclusively for worse, I would argue. So yeah, they have a lot of influence, but they do not control America. Stephen Rutherford says, "If you come up with a law and get at least 10,000 signatures, how would you submit it into law?" That I do not know, Stephen. I'm so sorry about that. Ron Rush says, "What's Israel's charter for the war?" I don't know. I think just because they want to, and so they're gonna, and they can, so they're gonna. Banda Boss says, "Because some people actually have to wait 10 plus years. I think the process of getting citizenship needs a reform." Completely agree with that. That was the Democrats' platform, was hire more immigration judges, hire more asylum judges, work with the countries below the border to try to solve the root causes of immigration and try to have a clearer pathway to citizenship. But people didn't like that. They voted instead for concentration camps. So here the fuck we are. User a bunch of numbers says Republicans and Democrats don't care about us, just each other and how rich they can get. That is inaccurate. User a whole bunch of numbers. The Republican Party is much more for the rich than the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has done a lot of good for the 99%. Not enough, but they've done a lot more for us than the Republicans have. So the reason why we're in this quagmire that we currently are in is because people keep on giving power to the Republican party so that they can stop Democrats from trying to help people. Right. Ron Russ says, at one point, should Israel withdraw from the war? Immediately. Immediately they should. Fog War Production says, in your opinion, how many immigrants would be too many? We have room in America. Additionally, our birth rate is declining. And so if we are going to continue to staff positions and pay into things like Social Security, then we need immigrants. I don't know if there is a number that would be too many. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. But India is a third of the size of America and has double our population, so it can be done. I've never been there, so I don't know what it looks like. When you try to squeeze that many people into one area, but it can be done. All right. Shawnee MC says, anything relevant to U.S. politics happened in Ukraine recently? I mean, there are constantly developments happening over there. I'm not sure if you're referring to one specific thing. Arclight says, maybe let voters pick the candidates, just an idea, LOL. I mean, they usually do with primaries, Arclights. 808 says, Democrats don't help anyone, though. All that money and what got better? Lots of things. The Inflation Reduction Act brought inflation from 9% to 2.4%. It was revitalizing small towns with safe, clean energy jobs. That's just one of many things that the Democratic Party did during the Biden administration to help people. I can do more. I've got a lot more to give you. Adrian Gonzalez says, is Governor Newsom a good governor? He's pretty good. I don't think he's perfect, but he's pretty good. Ron Rush says, what good has Democrats done for the major cities they have been in control of for decades? Lots of things. The reason why people want to live in cities is because they're better. You get more living in a city. You get better social services, and you get more access to culture, and things like that. Yeah, until rural areas are more densely populated than cities, I do not buy this argument that Democrats have ruined cities. All right, Average Joe, good to see you again. Considering SCOTUS has ruled that nationwide injunctions are unconstitutional, what do you think is the likelihood that Trump issues an unconstitutional election executive order far enough from the next election for his administration to enact it, but too close for legal procedures to stop it? I think it is very likely, Average Joe, and it is because the Trump administration is actively trying to steal every election going forward that I think that we need to be, every one of us, being engaged and educated and working towards stopping him and replacing him as quickly as humanly possible. And that means, not only voting for Democrats up and down the ballot in the midterms, but getting other people to vote for Democrats up and down the ballot in the midterms. Ryan Aridith9 says, where's your proof? Where is your evidence that he's trying to steal it? January 6th is my evidence. Also, he's done a whole bunch of shit about trying to keep people from voting, attacking mail-in voting, attacking our systems of voting. So yeah, there's a ton of evidence, Ryan, and hey, 808's being anti-Semitic. That's pretty cool. See you later, buddy. Alrighty, Marie, great to see you again. Diego Vargas, Democrats are poised to win in 2026 and 2028, but will they respect the will of the people? Diego Vargas, Democrats aren't poised to win anything. Some polling is suggesting that Democrats are doing better in those elections, but that does not mean that we can sit on our hands and no, the race is not over, my guy. Like, we need to do a lot of work to make sure that that is actually the outcome. I think we should be fighting for every single fucking seat that is up for re-election in 2026, because there is a lot of damage being done right now. It is a very scary time for everybody in America. And if you haven't felt it, it's not that it's not coming for you. It's just that you haven't felt it yet. But consequences are coming for everybody in America. It is terrifying. And so let us not assume that Democrats have those elections in the bag. But also, will they respect the will of the people? 100% they will. That is their mandate. That is what the Democratic Party does. They listen to their constituents. They don't just cancel their town halls because they don't like getting yelled at by their constituents just because they're doing wildly unconstitutional and barbaric shit, Alrighty, Michael F. says, why so much fear-mongering, LOL? Because there's a danger, Michael F. There is so much danger to the Trump administration, what they're currently doing. It's mind-boggling that people aren't doing more right now. User a bunch of numbers says you're delusional, and that's not a question, so you're out of here. Alrighty, Red, White, and Wired says just like they got to pick their presidential candidate, right? Yeah, there was a primary in 2024, and the voters overwhelmingly chose Joe Biden. And then Joe Biden dropped out, and so his vice president took over the mantle. That is all. That is not up for contention or debate whatsoever. All right. Fog War Production says it's kind of pathetic that Blue California cooperates more with Western red states than GOP Texas. Yeah, I completely agree. Alrighty. Excellent questions, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We're all caught up on questions at the moment, so I just wanted to take a second to say thank you for being here and thank you for the questions and the likes and the shares and the gifts and everything. My regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So, just be here regularly, and hopefully, we can all be more educated citizens. And Frame says, I feel that the Democrats aren't doing enough. Am I wrong? Yeah, I think so. I mean, your feeling is your feeling, so there's no right or wrong to your feeling. But there are a lot of Democrats doing a lot of work. But the Democrats are massively handicapped right now by not having any levers of power. They do not have the House, Senate, the Judiciary, the White House. They're doing what they can, but what they can do is very little. But there are a lot of people doing the work, and there's a lot of work being done. Frames. Shreyan says, as a blue, I don't see how others can defend Biden signing the Willow Project. Oh, I'm actually not familiar with what the Willow Project is, Shreyan. Hamilton Finch says, what can the Democrats do to turn out more votes? Hamilton Finch, I don't know, but I think that me and you should do it instead. Like, I'm not going to sit on my hands and wait for the Democrats to come up with the absolutely perfect messaging strategy. I think that we should just do it, because right now the Republican Party has so many advantages that even if everything that came out of every Democrat's mouth was perfect, the billionaire class could just wipe that all out with, flooding the social media challenge with channels with their various propaganda narratives. The only way that we could fight that is if we all are mobilized to fight that, and correcting all of those bullshit narratives in real life. Frame says the Willow Project was about tracking in Alaska, I believe. Fracking in Alaska. Yes, Frames, 100%. So here's the thing about Democrats advocating for continuing to use fossil fuels, enabling the use of fossil fuels, even as we are supposed to be the party of doing something about climate change and protecting the environment and everything like that, which is that America has massive energy needs. And so we have to kind of remember in Raiders of the Lost Ark where Indiana Jones took the thing of sand and he replaced the idol with a thing of sand at the exact same time? That's what we have to do with electricity, Whereas the American public has a lot of patience with the Republican Party for things like blackouts, like Texas had all these fucking blackouts and brownouts, and their fucking electricity costs went up 3,000% or whatever. And yet people still vote for Republicans because they are the party of drill baby drill. And so people think that those are normal, power outages that happen. That happens with energy sometimes. You got to do what you got to do. But because Democrats are trying to do something different and new, if there are any brownouts or increases in energy costs or blackouts or whatever, everybody loses their fucking mind and goes, this is because of solar panels and wind farms and shit like that, and we need more oil and shit like that. So Democrats have had to play this game of taking care of every single American's energy needs at the same time as trying to usher in a new green technology future. While I think that a more aggressive strategy might have been, the move, I also recognize how we judge Democrats by such a harsher standard that they can't slip up even a little bit, or we fucking lose every election for the next decades. Let's see here. Billy says, do you support a free Palestine? Yes, I do. Red, White, and Wired says Democrats just need to worry about Americans and they might win the next election. All Democrats do is worry about Americans, Red, White, and Wired, so I don't really know what you're talking about. Quit going so far left. Maybe a Fetterman that could actually pull Republican votes. Democrats don't lose elections because they're too far to the left for the same reason that they don't lose elections because they're too far to the right. But that is what people say, red, white, and wired. It is a nonsense thing that people say, but people like to make these claims. They claim that they know the reason why Democrats lose, and it's because they are too far to the left or too far to the right, and it is bullshit on both sides of it. Because yeah, you don't know that. I can show you just as many elections that were won because Democrats went too far to the left, and as elections that Democrats won because they were too far to the right, and vice versa. Red, White, and Wired says, yeah, they didn't lose the last election because Kamala was too far to the left. I agree. They did not lose the last election because Kamala was too far to the left. I don't know if you're trying to be sarcastic there, but if you were, you failed. All right, let's see here. Scrolling up. Dan Blackbird says, hopefully I have better luck with that maneuver than Indiana did. I don't know what you're referring to there, Dan Blackbird. Diego Vargas says, the whole system is rigged for the Republicans. 2 senators per state, gerrymander electoral college. Correct, Diego Vargas, correct. That's why we have to do more work. Red, White, and Wired says, what party has more billionaires, more millionaires? The Republican Party. Red, White, and Wired, please challenge me on that. I get this question every single live stream. I am so fucking prepared to prove that to you if you want to challenge me on it. I beg you to challenge me on that, please. I don't really care. I don't think that you care about the real answer. I think you're trying to promote a specific ideology. So, you can miss me with that shit. I would love for you to prove to me that you're in good faith, my guy. So why did they lose the last election and all the swing states and all the Democratic strongholds? They didn't lose Democratic strongholds, Red, White, and Wired. They lost vote share in Democratic strongholds, but they still won California, New York, Chicago, all those fucking places. But yeah, prove to me that you're here in good faith, Red, White, and Wired. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste my time with you anymore. JM says, do you wish big tax bill wasn't passed and tax cuts not continued? Yes, JM, because the tax cuts were for the billionaire class, which is what the Republicans always do. They always just cut taxes for billionaires and millionaires and giant corporations, and then they fuck the rest of us. Alrighty, Frame says, why are Democrats becoming more and more pro-establishment? They're not, Frames. That is a weird narrative that I have seen. Frame says, aka the billionaire class. Again, that is not true, Frames. You seem like you're here in good faith, so I'm happy to engage with you on this. So please ask me to elucidate, and I will happily will. Shreyan says, do you think the image of the right hating the left and vice versa will ever change? It won't, because the billionaire class is going to continue to stoke those fires over social media so long as there is no regulations to stop them. Banda Boss, you're awesome sauce. Thank you for being here. All right. Red, White, and Wired says, so long as you guys live in that altered reality and refuse the facts, the fact is you will lose. The fact is, I fucked your mom last night, Red, White, and Wired, and you're blocked. I'm done with you. A Burn Tiger 83 says, what do you think of Gaza October 7th? October 7th was a war crime that the Hamas did on the people of Israel, and then Israel responded by doing war crimes against the people of Palestine. Both the Netanyahu government and Hamas are bad, sending money or weapons to either of them. Hey, look how cool I look with these glasses. Ron Rush says, why did Democrats lose 6 million votes in the last 2 election cycles? There are a lot of reasons, Ron Rush. Let me get to that, and I want to clean up some of these other comments really quickly. Let's see here. Brandon says, is falsely charging people with felonies for simple crime, then taking firearms a Second Amendment violation? Brandon, it feels like you're arguing against red flag laws, which I am for, because I do not believe that we should be letting people who are like domestic violence abusers have firearms, because then they tend to do murders with those firearms. Yeah. Right. Diego Vargas, will our kids have to live with parents because they are already priced out of the market? 100%. Freddie Max says, I believe Democrats lost the last election because they see Kamala as weak. I don't believe that is accurate at all. Gregory Jason says, liberals lost because of people like this. That is also inaccurate. Frames says, sadly, I think we're going to agree to disagree. I've seen too many Democrats try to privatize public. Frames, I would love to engage with you on this, ask me specific questions about this, and I will give you all the data and information that you need. But I do not think that you are right about this. Let me get back to Ron Rush's question. So why did Democrats lose 6 million votes in the last 2 election cycles? The reason is because of a couple of things. Number one, billions and billions of dark money donations to the Republican Party to spread misinformation and propaganda to convince people to not vote. Narratives like both parties are the same, nothing ever changes. If you vote, you're complicit in a corrupt system. Both parties are funding the G side, so what difference does it make? Et cetera, et cetera. Completely ignoring all of the good that happened during the Biden administration, completely ignoring all of the bad that happened during the Trump administration. Also, there was an incumbency bias where anybody who was in power suffered electoral declines, basically, just because people were mad at whoever was in charge during inflation. There are a lot of other reasons, but I think those are the main two ones. All right, Frames, I see you. Let's see here. Yeah, let's get into it, Frames. Auburn Tiger says, why did Harris tell us she owned a Glock and wasn't afraid to use it after being anti-gun? I don't understand why you think that having a gun and being anti-gun are mutually exclusive. You can be anti-gun but feel like it's necessary to have a gun. Prod says, any signs of the housing market improving anywhere within the country? I haven't seen any, Prod. I don't believe it is. Let's see here. Jim says, no tax on tips, overtime, and increase in child tax credit. There's no increase to the child tax credit that happened during the big, beautiful bill. And the no tax on tips and no tax on overtime is crumbs compared to what they took away from us by cutting social services. Fog War Productions, I've become very white-pilled on the logistical plans of Democratic green energy politics. I think that's a good thing, Fog War Productions. I think I agree with you. Frame says, sure, I'd love to be corrected. Yeah, let's get into it. Like, give me one target, because you said a bunch of things that'll take me too long to dissect all of it. Nostradamus says, Israel has to be held to a higher standard than Hamas. I completely agree with that. They're the more powerful party. They should be doing the work to bring about peace. Let's see here. Dan Blackroyd, conservatives, this is why Democrats lost. Everyone else, that's a brand muffet. Accurate. Dan Blackroyd, you don't miss, man. You're 10 out of 10. Bandabas, what are your thoughts on Netanyahu? He's a massive piece of shit. The guy's got to go. He is corrupt. He is a war criminal. Yeah, 100%. Ron Rush says, that got 6 million people? I think so. Joni Calder says, and Ron Rush, sorry, I forgot also voter suppression. That is also a huge part of that, is the Republican Party is very good at voter suppression, closing down polling locations and stuff like that. Joni Calder says, what will happen when Trump moves into Chicago? My guess is nothing. People are not trying to get into a fight with the National Guard. They're just kind of like going about their lives. But it is dangerous. There is the potential that escalates. Diego Vargas says, Bidenomics looked great on paper, stocks all-time high, GDP booming, but people couldn't pay their mortgage. Yes, Diego Vargas, but that wasn't the fault of Bidenomics. We just didn't give Bidenomics enough time to get to the cost of living crisis and the housing shortage, but it was on its way there, Diego Vargas. Alrighty, let's see here. Marie says, if governors deployed guard to their own city, would they not, Trump, have control? I believe Trump would still have control of the guard there. Ali Bay says, my neighborhood has 4 houses on my street that haven't sold in 5 months now. That sounds accurate. Bandabas, again, Netanyahu, piece of shit. Let's see here. K Yeti says, Marine here, personal opinion, love guns. They are complimentary in my profession. K Yeti, I don't see the rest of that comment there. JM, that is not true. There is no child tax credit. The Republicans killed it. Right. Frames, I'm on vacation. Would it be okay if I DM you my source? My boyfriend wants my attention. Absolutely, Frames. DMs are open. Let's engage on this. You are exactly the kind of person that I want to talk to. Exactly the kind of person that I want to convince. Alrighty. JM. Welfare reform is only past dealing with our debt, in my opinion. I'm not going to block you just yet. Scroll down to the bottom of the TikTok comments. Opinion on what's going on in Sudan right now. I don't know enough about it to opine on that, Gex. Sorry about that. RM over on YouTube says, Biden approval rating plummeted after the withdrawal from Afghanistan and never recovered. If you were to wager a guess, what scenario would be the point of no return for Trump? So RM, what we have discovered is that because the billionaire propaganda machine is hyping Trump up, there is no, the floor to Trump's approval is like 30%. And it will never go below that because, there are too many levers in the information environment that the billionaires use to erase any negative coverage of him. So yeah, and I have a lot of thoughts about how the Afghan withdrawal was 100% not Biden's fault, and it was actually Trump's fault. But that's neither here nor there. We cannot wait for the maliciousness and the incompetence of the Trump administration to kill the Trump administration. We have to go out there and make sure that people are voting and people are boycotting and protesting and striking and calling their representatives. We have to do that work. But thank you for your question, RM. David says we need Trump-like presidents for the next 50 years. That's not a question, David, and also that's complete and utter bullshit. So you're out of here. All right. Auburn Tiger says, what is your opinion on Michigan changing to a red state? Michigan's not a red state. It is a purple state, but every swing state went for Trump in 2024 because of the exact same reasons why Republicans did good. Propaganda, misinformation, incumbency bias, et cetera, et cetera. Banda Boss, by the way, Jared, I don't think it's right to tax billionaires until they're just multimillionaires. Why do you have to say about people talking about Trump saying he wanted to nullify the Constitution? Why don't you think we should be taxing billionaires, Banda Boss? Just the act of a person having $1 billion is bad for the economy and for the country. There's no benefit to having individual people who are so much wealthier than everybody else. What is the argument against taxing billionaires until they're just multimillionaires? Or do you want them to not be multimillionaires even? Banda Boss, people talking about Trump that he wants to nullify the Constitution. I would say that they are right to say that Trump is trying to nullify the Constitution. Case Kell says, how do you keep from burning out, answering the same questions and refute the same talking points? Case Kell, this is the fucking work, Case Kell. I am here every fucking weekday because I see what's going on out there, and I see the danger, and I see that it's accelerating, and I see that the only way to stop it is for us to be activated and educated and recruiting other people to do this shit. Case. So please, I hope you're part of the fight, because I'm not on here for my fucking health. I am on here to do change and to activate people and to educate people about what's fucking going on. So please be part of that work, and the work does not stop when the live stream ends. DMs are open, everybody. Email me through my website. Go to my Discord server. You can hit me up there. There's great resources there for getting involved and getting educated. Please do it, guys, because I'm fucking worried as hell, man. It's getting bad out there. It's getting real fucking bad. Arthur Stig Blomqvist says, are you happy with the fact that our borders are safer? They're not safer than they were before, Arthur, so I don't know what you're talking about. Fog War Production says, my oil and gas town is going to be getting a clean energy battery storage plant in the near future. I mean, I hope that Trump doesn't kill it for no fucking reason. Fog War Productions, there was a wind farm that was 75% completed that Trump just removed the permit for. It wasn't using up any government funding whatsoever. They just wanted to, I don't know, make energy more expensive for everybody in fucking Rhode Island or some shit like that. Boy. Average Joe, regarding the continued criticisms about the DNC not having a primary, would you be willing to pass along a couple of important facts? Number one, the parties are not controlled by any level of government, meaning they're under no obligation to even have a primary. Number two, presidential primaries didn't even exist until the 1970s. Those are all excellent points, Average Joe PG, but I think it's simpler than that. I think it's simpler. They did have a primary in 2024, and Biden won it. And when Biden dropped out with less than 110 days for anybody to pick up the mantle, what do you think we should have done? I know you're agreeing with me, Average Joe, but my whole fucking thing is, what do you think we should have done? States like Ohio that were controlled by Republicans were threatening that if they did not give them a name of their candidate before the Democratic convention, that they were going to leave the name of the candidate off of their ballot in those states, which would have been extremely harmful for that president getting those votes. So what do you think we should have done? Not you, Average Joe. Again, you're good. So yeah, there we go. Crazy Monsoon says, any projects coming up that you are involved with, acting gigs? Not at present. I just finished writing a book that my editor is taking a look at. It's not a book about politics. It is fiction. So there's no sequel to the Kellyanne Conway Technique coming out anytime soon, guys. But I do have this one thing that I want you guys to all help me with, which is that I want to start a podcast called Deep Canvas, where I talk to the people that you guys know who are on the fence or soft Republican voters or so far to the left that they think that voting doesn't do anything. I need to find these non-voters. I need to find these people that are convincible, people that are already in agreement with me, people that are already like ready to vote for Democrats in 2026. Like, I don't need to talk to those people. I need to talk to everybody else. You know, I don't necessarily need to talk to your fucking hardcore MAGA uncle or whatever, but there are persuadables out there, and there are non-voters out there. There are people who are tapped out, who are like, are there bad things happening in the Trump administration right now? I haven't heard about any of them. I want to talk to these people, and I want to podcast it, and we can protect their anonymity. If they don't want to have their name and face out there, we can 100% do that. But I want to put out to the world what it sounds like when people engage on politics in good faith. It's not fighting or debating or trying to own people. And I want to convince those people, and I want to get them on board with the project, and then recruit those people to get more people to do this, you know, because that's the way that we fucking fix this shit. That's the way that we win, you know? So yeah, if you know people like that, fucking go to the Discord, everybody. Link is in the bio. That is the new project, you know, to whoever asked that question. Average Joe PG says there's nothing we could have done. The parties are controlled by billionaires and corporations. They're not beholden to the voters yet. Average Joe PG, you're a regular here. You know that that's one of the narratives that I think is wildly inaccurate and does nothing but hurt the Democratic Party. To say that both parties are controlled by billionaires and corporations suggests that they are equally controlled by billionaires and corporations. But the fact of the matter is, Republicans cut taxes and regulations for billionaires and giant corporations. Democrats put regulations on giant corporations to make sure they're not poisoning our air and our water with runoff from their factories. And they tax billionaires and millionaires. It is true that billionaires and millionaires give money to both campaigns, but they give way more money to the Republican Party. And it is true that Democrats taking money from billionaires does water down all of their progressive legislation, but that's better than that billionaire money going to Republicans to supercharge their already pro-billionaire anti-worker agenda. So yeah, Average Joe PG, you know I got nothing but love for you, but that narrative, fucking exercise it, man. It is bullshit, and I will happily argue that 10 ways from Sunday. There are more billionaires in Trump's cabinet than any president in history. Robert Reich, who is, I believe, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, crunched the numbers, and 75% of all billionaire donations go to Republican Party candidates. So again, man, alrighty, Average Joe PG, we're good, man. No apology necessary. And you didn't apologize, so, so no apology given. All right, Swiftly Engaged, great to see you again. Is the redistricting vote gaining traction in California? Hoping so from Texas. It's polling really good right now, but the billionaires are out in force trying to stop it. I've gotten 2 mailers so far to my house urging me to vote no on the redistricting because gerrymandering is bad no matter who does it, and it you know, undermines our democracy and a whole bunch of other bullshit that completely ignores the moment that we are in and the fucking redistricting, gerrymandering, mid-decade gerrymandering, unprecedented gerrymandering that the Republican Party is currently engaged in. All right, Jeff Corley says, you're so wrong in so many levels. Democrats so much more money than the Republicans have ever seen. That is not true, Jeff, and I don't think that you are interested in engaging in good faith or learning why you are wrong. I think that you are just trying to push that narrative. But prove me wrong, ask a question, we can get into it, or just make another statement and I'll block you. All right, Banda Boss. Sorry, I see you got a couple of things here. I think it's better to lessen taxes for rich people and businesses because it promotes and encourages more development. I think it's better. Yeah. So Banda Boss, that is something that is a narrative that rich people have spent a lot of time and money to propagate, but it does not bear out in the data whatsoever. When you give rich people money, they hoard it. They do stock buybacks to increase the value of the stocks that they already hold. They are not investing in new factories. They are not paying their workers more money. They are using their money to get more money and power. And what you're describing is the theory behind trickle-down economics, which we have been suffering under for the last 50 years, and it has not worked. Income inequality is worse now than it was during the Gilded Age. People are fucking starving on the streets while the rich have never been fucking richer. There are people living in homeless encampments, not because Democrats do a bad job running their cities. It's because billionaires are fucking flying around on private jets, going to their fucking mega mansions and mega yachts, eating caviar and cocaine 3 fucking meals a day. That's why we can't afford shit. It's not immigrants. It's rich people have this hole in them that they cannot fill with no matter how many billions of fucking dollars they put in there. And then they use that money to get Republicans elected so that the Republicans can cut the taxes more and cut regulations more. You know? Alrighty. Let's see here. To Crazy Monsoon says the Republicans have been trying to push trickle down since Reagan in 91. Didn't work then, won't work now. Completely agree. Let's see here. Marie says, do you think number of voters turning on Trump is underestimated? Yes. No, I think it's overestimated, Marie. I do think that he's turning off some people, but he has a floor of like 35% approval rating that I don't believe he's ever going to dip down under, because propaganda and misinformation is a hell of a drug. So we need to do the work, Marie. We need to do the work. Bandaboss says, but at the same time, I don't think it's right to increase taxes for middle and lower class. I completely agree. So let's tax the rich, because them hoarding that money is doing nothing. It is not doing the things that you said that it was doing. But relieving financial pressure on the lower and middle class does actually do that. That's what Bidenomics was. That was building an economy from the ground up. Alrighty, Fog War Productions says, my worry is that this tit-for-tat gerrymandering will only expand and worsen. It probably will, Fog War Productions, but the Republican Party is not going to not gerrymander if the Democratic Party doesn't not gerrymander. The Republican Party is going to do it. They are currently doing it. They have been doing it. And so the only way to get around that is to vote for Democrats who will make partisan gerrymandering illegal if we give them enough votes. Short says, do you think appointing Democratic loyalists is the way forward for future Democratic presidents? I don't. I just think we should be staffing those agencies with people that actually do that work. Short, like, let's actually have somebody in charge of the FBI who gives a shit about law enforcement instead of just going after Trump's enemies. Let's put somebody in charge of the Department of Defense that actually gives a shit about protecting American safety and not just deploying the military to American cities for no fucking reason. A massive waste of everybody's time and energy, and it's so fucking dangerous, you know? Let's put somebody in charge of the EPA who cares about protecting the fucking environment, not a fucking oil baron or somebody who is heavily invested in fossil fuels, you know? Lindsay Reid says, how not to freak out every day Trump does something? Do the work, Lindsay. That is how you don't freak out, is you do the work. Be part of the solution. Put just a tiny amount of your energy every day towards fighting this in whatever way that you can. And that is how you don't freak out. And then, do your self-care, go to the movies, play video games, get a couple of drinks with your friends. That stuff is really important too. Don't let them steal our humanity from us. Don't let them steal your hope, your optimism. Et cetera, et cetera. Fog War Productions. I think it's also good to focus on positive that's also happening right now. Completely agree, Fog War Productions, but I also worry that we are, ignoring how bad things are. Alrighty. K Yeti says, got Tomahawk. I gotta get off some. Don't think you'll let me up. If not, no worries. K Yeti, I didn't even see that you requested K Yeti, but if you want to pop on for a second, let me know. You've been here for a while, so I trust that you are here in good faith. Yeah, can we hear K Yeti?
Hey, brother. Thanks for letting me up. Sorry for that nonsensical question.
No, I didn't see. What's going on, man? What's your cue?
So one thing to share and then a question for you about gerrymandering. I recently came across a study, 2011 University College of London, where they took conservatives and progressives and fed them new information and studied them under an MRI to see what parts of the brain were being stimulated. Mm-hmm. And the progressives, and I forget the different parts of the brain, and I can share it in the chat with you guys, but the part of the brain for the progressives is responsible for conflict resolution and adaptability, whereas the conservatives, it was fear and threat detection. So I found that very interesting. And the study was duplicated with similar matching results.
I've heard things like that before. Yeah, that all tracks. And I think that we need to use that information to figure out how we communicate with those people better and how to engage with them better, whereas the fear is like, think about how, there are all these criminals out there that are not being pursued because the FBI is so busy redacting Trump's name from certain files, if you know what I mean,
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So what's your question, my guy?
Well, I also think that underscores our responsibility to teach and expand on emotional intelligence and knowledge of personality traits. The question is, with rounding up the homeless and practicing these unethical practices, someone made a comment to me that it's a form of gerrymandering to take individuals, whether it's prison or homeless, and put them into different districts. And now there are more people populating that area. Is that true? Has that been used?
I haven't heard that theory. I would want to dig into those numbers a little bit. There's also I don't know. It gets a little muddy where you think about. It gets a little muddy where you think about, like, are these people actually voting? Depending on what state they're in, or if they're being counted in whatever redistricting is happening during the census seasons. So yeah, I'm a little skeptical about that. I would want to read a little bit more into it. It seems kind of muddy to me. Like, it seems like,
I think for the homeless it's muddy. There's validity potentially for the prison, because that's going to be a standing residency.
Yeah. I'll take a look at that, man. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any new information to give you about that.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. Appreciate you too.
Yeah, take care.
All right. What a nice fella. All right, let's see here. Let's see here. Banda Boss, I see you looking for that first comment there. Brian Nagy says, can we ever get back to the marginalized tax rate back to 90% if we vote for the people that will do that, Brian? The reason why we are living in this current hellhole is because people voted for the people to put us into a fucking hellhole. And so if we vote for better people and we get other people to vote for better people, then we get a better fucking country. Banda Boss says, lessen taxes for the rich and businesses, but at the same time, don't increase taxes for the middle class and lower class. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you about that. But again, we are not seeing any benefit. We are not seeing the benefit that you said we were getting from lowering taxes on corporations and billionaires. Banda Boss, if you want, hit me up about this in my DMs or in my Discord, or email me through my website, and I will send you all the information that I have on that. Auburn Tiger says, what do you think about Bill Maher saying how hard it was to get a Harris interview? I think it is probably accurate to say that Harris was not doing was doing fewer interviews than people wanted her to do, because she only had 100 days to do an entire presidential campaign, which is something that normally people take, a year, more than a year to plan for. But also Bill Maher, I agree with Mark Maron that he is fucking desperate for relevancy and he's fucking lost a step. He is not on it. You don't fucking go get dinner with Trump and then buy him fucking kissing your ass as evidence that he's a good person if you are the Bill Maher from the 90s that was actually like fucking on top of this shit, He's suffering from old conservative brain syndrome. Right. Dan Blackroy says, I'm fine paying more taxes for services and programs that actually benefit people. Me too. Banda Boss says, yeah, we are. In the 2016 term, we've seen a huge increase in the stock market, one of the reasons why people support Trump. So, Banda Boss, I would argue that was because of the Obama administration. There are trails, there is a delay to the effect of presidential administrations on the markets. It's the reason why we were all suffering so much during the Biden administration because of cost of living increases. Though that is caused by mistakes that were made during the Trump administration. So record stock markets because we had 8 years of a democratic financial policy and a tax policy that was taxing the rich, as opposed to the tax cuts for the rich that happened during the Trump administration. And now the stock market is just one metric for how the economy is doing, and it's not all-encompassing by a long shot. Like, the stock market was doing great during the Biden administration, yet people didn't vote for for Democrats again, even though the stock market was at record highs during the Biden administration. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's like more examples of how we don't give Democrats any credit, and we don't give Republicans any blame. For some reason, we judge Democrats by this way harsher standards than Republicans. For Republicans, things can never get bad enough for them to be their fault, and for Democrats, things can never be good enough for us to give them credit for doing it. So yeah, but again, I am. There are so few things that I am as confident of that trickle down economics does not work. I am so solid on this, Banda Boss. Just please, I might not have every detail at the top of my head right now, but there is so much information on this. I would love to engage with you on this. DM me, send me an email, hit me up on the Discord. It is, I believe you're a Democrat, Banda. I totally do. But yeah, this narrative of we need to cut taxes for the rich so that the economy can grow. It is just billionaire propaganda that has been fucking incepted into our heads with zero fucking evidence to back it up. Auburn Tiger says whatever Biden did didn't work either. I mean, it was working. We just didn't give it enough time to do it. But there are many metrics by which the economy was doing amazing during the Biden administration. Diego Vargas, billionaires shouldn't exist. Completely agree. Auburn Tiger says, are rich just billionaires? No, I mean, we say billionaires as a shorthand, but it includes, multimillionaires as well. Average Joe says, have you had an opportunity to check out Capital Trades yet? Well, it's not surprising that Republicans are blatantly corrupt. I think it would surprise a lot of people how many Democrats actively trade stocks. So while they might not take direct contributions from them, they would benefit from those companies' success. 100% agree, Average Joe PG. And where the stock trading issue is concerned, I think it's important to recognize that the Democrats are better on this issue, but they're not like perfect on it. The same way that they're not perfect on other issues like universal health care or Israel, Gaza, and shit like that. But there are more Democrats trying to make it illegal for people in government to trade stocks than there are Republicans trying to make it illegal. Like, Republicans are in full control of the government right now. Where's the fucking bill, guys? Where's the bill? I know Josh Hawley and a bunch of Democrats are on board with doing that. Why are you blocking it, Rick Scott? Why are you trying to stop that from happening? Alrighty. Uche Bin Durvo says, what do you think about MAGA Republicans? I have radical empathy for every single voter, regardless of if they voted for Republicans or Democrats or third party or didn't vote at all. But I think that we also need radical accountability for every elected MAGA and Republican, and every Republican and MAGA talking head like Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and all those fucking Alex Jones, all those fucking assholes who are lying to us, to our fucking faces, so that they can be rich and powerful. They are fucking this country over. They are ruining it. They are hurting people. There are people who are dead today, maybe over 1 million people who are dead today because of Republican politicians and Republican talking heads. And so I think we need accountability for them, but empathy for the voters themselves. Right. User a bunch of numbers says, bring back the fairness doctrine. I think that would be good, User, but I also don't think it's enough. I think that's like step one. We need to do more to fight misinformation and propaganda. I don't know how, but I know that we should. Right. Banda Boss says, not for the economy can grow, but more so for the country to develop, because it'll encourage people to go into that field. Interesting, Banda Boss. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. We just came to the conclusion that rich people would increase the value of their stocks. Shork says, would you be okay with billionaires if you knew they were paying a lot more taxes? No. I don't think that if somebody has $1 billion, they are not paying enough taxes. End of story. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Banda Boss, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I was scrolling up to try to figure it out. So just send me a DM, I would say. Let's fucking get into it. Alrighty. Auburn Tiger says, is home ownership and a great job rich? What's the definition, since we keep using that word? I guess, it depends on who you're talking to, but I guess I would talk about, people that are in the 0.1% are the rich. So yeah, that's probably my definition, is the 0.1%. All right, scrolling down to the bottom, Fogboard Productions, do you think that people's distrust of legacy corporate media is at least somewhat founded? Yes, but it is not where it should be. I think it should be in the direction of what is the influence of the profit motive on this, and what is the influence of the billionaire owners on it. But right now, people are like, I don't watch any legacy media because it's all fake, which is, wildly inaccurate. The criticisms that a person can have about legacy media are double independent media, as far as reliability is concerned, where what the advantage of a place like the New York Times has is their reputation for fair and balanced and credible is what makes them money. And so, I think people need to recognize the value of legacy mainstream media instead of just deriding it all as fake or nonsense or bullshit or whatever. Alrighty. Swiftly Engaged says response times SB 922. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Watching Trump's cabinet meeting earlier, what's he talking about with Newsom, Bass, EPA, and the fires? Response time. I think there's a bunch. Swiftly Engaged. I think I know what you're talking about. It's there's a bunch of misinformation about how California handled the wildfires that happened this past December and January, and some of that is, good faith, mistakes that they made, and some of it is, I have not seen any substantive data that there were intentionally bad decisions made by California's government, but only that it was an unprecedented emergency, and you make mistakes when you are trying to deal with an unprecedented emergency. But yeah, there's a lot of bullshit narratives around it, trying to call them incompetent for making whatever mistakes around it, whatever. You got to be really careful with right-wing criticisms of Democrats, because it is largely misinformation. There might be some truth snuck in there somewhere, but that just makes it even more dangerous because they hide the lies under the truth. Right. K Yeti says, do you believe that his fondness of executive orders is a smoke and mirrors practice? I don't believe that the Trump administration is doing anything to be a distraction. I believe that everything is bad and also a distraction. It's a flood the zone strategy that Steve Bannon has been touting and confessing to for a long time. So yeah, nothing is a distraction and everything is a distraction because it's all bad. Is them building concentration camps a distraction from the quote the files that we want out there, or is sending the military to American citizens to American cities a distraction from the concentration camps? Is the cryptocurrency a distraction from kissing Putin's ass? Or is kissing Putin's ass a distraction from the cryptocurrency? It's all bad and it's all a distraction. All right, everybody. I'm gonna do my outro. Send your final questions, but thank you again, everybody, for the likes, the shares, the gifts, for the questions. The project does not end when the live stream is over, so email me, DM me. Join my Discord, check out the Discord, great resources there, but also hit me up for any questions that you might have. I want you guys to be involved. I want you to be recruiting your friends. If you know people who are not fully on board with the project of replacing every Republican politician with a Democratic politician, please send them to me so I can start my new podcast called Deep Canvas with Jarrett Berenstein or whatever. And we can show the world what good political engagement looks like, and we can cut through the fucking bullshit and maybe try to start actually reaching people and recruiting people for this fight, because that is the only way that we get fucking through this, guys. People aren't freaking out enough. Maybe people aren't doing enough work. People are not nearly doing enough. We need more fight. We need more fight here, and we can't just sit around and hope that the Democrats will be able to save us, or the judiciary will be able to save us, or whatever. We have to do the work. So please do the work, guys, because I'm fucking scared as hell. Alrighty, last thing that I always tell people is regular schedule, Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, if you want to join, if you want to support me financially, you can, but you don't have to. If you go to my website, you will find my Patreon, you will find my store, and of course, you can send gifts and do a subscription on TikTok or Twitch or YouTube or all the various channels. There are fun, cute ways to send money and gifts and subscribe and stuff like that on there that I'm not fully versed in. All right, final questions. B Nana says, "Isn't anyone as afraid as I am still gonna fight?" I am probably exactly as afraid as you, Banana, and I'm still fighting also. Diego Vargas says, "Thoughts on Luigi Mangione?" I think we don't know if he's guilty or not. In this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. I think it is. I do not condone any kind of violence, regardless of if the person, quote unquote, deserved it because they bought a yacht off of the backs of people dying of cancer treatments that they were denied by that person. I don't condone any kind of violence or property destruction. But I think that the billionaires need to recognize why people stand a guy who was accused of assassinating a millionaire, a multimillionaire, and I think that they would be wise to look at things like the French Revolution and take that as cautionary. Alrighty, what is this thing? Let's see here that you're saying. Rich by definition. All right, everybody. Jury nullification. John Bradley says, "How far is he going to go? Banning the flag burning a Supreme Court decision is a new level." John Bradley, Russia, Nazi Germany, Hungary, Turkey, at the height of their fucking despotism and authoritarianism and fascism, that's where he's going, John Bradley. And it is up to us to stop him. It is up to us to do the work. And if you want to know what the work is, check out my Discord. Link is in the bio. I have everything that the work is there. And I guarantee you will not find a single thing about doing violence or property destruction. It is all just work. The Open Society and Its Enemies. Oh, interesting, K-Eddie. I haven't heard about that book, but I'll check it out. Hey, have you read Dark Money by Jane Mayer, K-Eddie? All right, everybody, do the work. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.